going to be showing you how to do a angled clocking flange for your GY6 on a new motor. This is how your motor is going to come with all the plastics on it, with the manifold this way. We're going to show you what a lot of people do. They flip this around, and we'll show you why that's not a good reason to do that. So stay tuned. First thing we're going to do is take a 10mm wrench, and we're going to take off these two little nuts here. You're probably going to need a wrench because the socket usually doesn't fit into this little area right here. And what a lot of people do is they take this off and they flip it around like this, and then they put the nuts back on and put the carburetor on, and we're going to show you why that's kind of not really the way to go. So we have the carb on now. A lot of times this isn't actually going to go on anyways because this doesn't fit flush. This plastic's preventing it actually from bolting down. But if you take a look at the carb and the float ball, if you see the angle, it's very high, so you could have the fuel sitting in this float ball right here, and when you're running top speed, you're not going to have enough fuel in the float ball. So we make something to fix that, and it is a clocking flange. It's an angled clocking flange. This clocking flange does come with your fatty kit if you order it from the Ruck shop. It's included. It's a $42 value. It's included with our fatty mount kit. We also have an all-in-one clocking flange as well, and what that is for is if you need the extra height to bring the carburetor up. If you're using a a PWK 28 or 30 mil carb, you're going to need this clocking flange because the float ball is too high. Actually, the float ball is too low, and it actually hits the bottom here. Plus, you need to raise up the carb so that it clears the bar on the Honda Ruckus. So we're going to show you what to do. First thing first is we're going to remove this black plastic piece. It's a 5mm spacer. We're going to go ahead and take that out. So right now we're just going to take a flat tip screwdriver and pry around it so it comes out pretty simple. And naturally when you're on video it's kind of a pain. Most of the time they just slide right out. This one seems to be stuck. So the black piece didn't come out. A lot of times it just pulls out, so we're going to show you what to do if it does not come out. We're going to use the double nut method, and we're going to take a 8mm nut, and we're going to take the two nuts that came with the motor, put them on, and we'll show you how to use this method to remove these studs. So you're going to put the two nuts on, and then you're going to use a wrench to back out the other one. So what we've done is we've taken a 8mm nut and we put it on top of the other nut. You actually tighten the top nut against the bottom nut, and you go past that nut and you actually start turning it, and it's going to remove the stud. And as you can see, if you can see in the video, the stud is moving. So you're going to back that completely out, and you're going to do the same thing on the other nut. So now that we've got the two studs out, we should be able to use a flat tip screwdriver and pop that plastic piece off. And it might be RTV'd in there, but it should just pop right off. And there's a little gasket in there, and you can take that and throw that away. Take the flat tip screwdriver or a thin razor blade and scrape off this excess gasket, because you need a good seat, and then we'll show you what's next. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some blue painter's tape, and we're actually going to tape off the intake, so when we're trimming the plastic around for the angled clocking flange, plastic does not get down into the head. Okay, once we have this taped off, we're going to take the studs that we just removed and our angled clocking flange that again comes with a fatty kit. if you purchase it from us. Just put them in, and you're just putting this in so that you can use it as a template where to trace the plastic, because that's the part that you're going to cut off. So once you have that down, remember, it does not have to be tight. Take a pencil or a marker, and you're just going to trace around where you're going to cut. Alright, so what you're going to need to do is take a utility knife, and you're going to need to trim the areas that you marked off. We actually have a Dremel tool, so we're going to use a Dremel tool. You can use a utility knife. Just be very careful when cutting it so it doesn't slip away. So we'll show you what to do next. Alright, after we've used the cone bit, or whatever bit you feel necessary, we actually taken the sandpaper bit and cleaned this up. So we're kind of finishing it up, cleaning it up so it's nice and clean. Then we take the caulking flange, make sure that it fits nice and good. And as you can see, that's why you needed the blue tape, so that none of these particles get down in the cylinder head. Alright, so now we have it all cleaned up. You can spend as little or as much time as you want. Naturally, it's spend a little more time. It's a cleaner look. We've cleaned it all up. Just take some compressed air or blow the rest of the stuff off. Do a final test fit. Make sure that it fits good. And then we're going to show you what to do. You're going to use the supplied bolts that come with the kit to put the angle clocking flange down. Alright, we have removed the tape, and on the clocking flange there is a O-ring. Make sure that the O-ring is properly seated. You can also put a little black RTV around here as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to use the supplied socket cap bolts. They're a 6mm with a 5mm head. So you're going to put these in. And we also recommend you use some blue or red Loctite on these as well, because the GY6 motor does vibrate a lot. So we're going to put these in and we'll show you what to do. So you're going to tighten this one and tighten the other one. Okay, so we've removed that piece off. We've shown this installed. We have a little side note here. We like to take that spacer off because it's just a possible prone vacuum leak, because you would have to have a gasket below it and a gasket on top of it. With the nuts or the bolts that are provided, which are 25mm, you can use this. We do not like to use this, so if you plan on taking it off like us, we recommend that you go to your local Ace Hardware, Lowe's, Home Depot, and get yourself some M6 by 1.0, and it needs to be 20mm long, and then because this is actually 5mm thick. So we take that off because we do a lot of customer service calls, tech calls, and we try to eliminate vacuum leaks. So if you do decide to do that, again, you're going to need some M6 by 1.0 thread pitch by 20mm long, and it's going to be a socket cap nut. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the double nuts off that you took off of the head, because you're going to reuse those studs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those studs, put a little red Loctite on the stud threads right there, and then we're going to put them into these holes. Now what you can do is you can use a pair of pliers, or you can use the double nut method again to tighten these studs into the clocking flange. Either way, the red Loctite should hold them in. We recommend maybe taking a pair of pliers and tightening them up, let it set. Then you're going to take the manifold that came with the motor, and you're going to slide that right on, just like that. And then you put back the original M8 nuts. Again, put some Loctite on those studs, tighten them down. Okay, so we've bolted the manifold on to the clocking flange. One thing that we've actually noticed is, we're going to zoom in on here, and if you can see, the stud does not have threads all the way through, so that's not going to allow you to tighten the nut all the way down, which is going to cause a vacuum leak. Again, if you're using your 5mm spacer, you're not going to run into this issue. We like to eliminate as many possible prone vacuum leaks. So while you're at the store, if you decide to take out the 5mm spacer, we recommend you also get 3 6mm washers, and you're going to put those washers on top here. And what that's going to do is that's going to take allow you to tighten it up completely. Now this one right here, the threads go all the way through, and the reason why that is because the way that the angle clocking flange is formed. As you can kind of see, it's higher here than it is here. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. And again, you don't have to do this. It's just something that we like to do. We have a lot of people, they say, oh, my carburetor's surging, idling high or low. Again, we're just showing you this video of things that we like to do. So we're going to go ahead and put on the carburetor. You just push it on. Now you're going to have a forward facing carb. And now, as you can see, it has evened out the float bolt a lot more. And it's still clearing the valve cover. And this is included in the TRS fatty kit, this clocking flange with a 24mm. If you're going to use a 30mm or 28mm PWK carb, we're going to show you what to use with that carb. So now that you have the carburetor on, you're going to notice that you have some hoses sticking out. We're going to show you where to put those hoses at. We're going to kind of make this simple. What we're going to do is we're going to take off this little T-fitting here, and we're going to run that hose to this vacuum port here. You just run it right in, push it through, put the little clip on, and now we're going to show you, you're going to take your fuel line or vacuum line, and we sell these in 3-foot sections. You're going to put this right on here, just like that. If you use a different line, or even this line, we recommend that you go ahead and zip tie that on, so you have a nice, good, secure vacuum. So we're going to zip tie that on, and then what we're going to do is you're going to run this vacuum line to your Mikuni fuel pump vacuum port, which is the top one on the Mikuni fuel pump. And you're going to have to use a little force. What we recommend is maybe you take a little dab of oil, put it on this nipple here, so that you can actually put the vacuum line onto that nipple, because it is bigger than the one that's on this manifold. So we're going to show you here. Just put it on. And then once you do that, you're going to notice that you're going to have 2 arrows, one here and one there. That is for your fuel. So you're going to go ahead and put the fuel coming in to this port, and the fuel coming out to that port, and that line is going to go to a fuel filter, or you can put the fuel filter before the fuel pump, which is what we do. And you're going to plug, actually you're going to go from here all the way around to your fuel inlet. Alright, so here's the fuel pump. Since we're on the carburetor, we're going to kind of take a little side tour and show you where this stuff goes. So as you can see, this is the vacuum port. This is going to run up, and naturally your line's not going to be this big, and it's going to go to the vacuum side on the side of the manifold. Then you're going to have this line right here, which is going out, and that is going to go to the carburetor. Then from your fuel tank, you're going to have this line to a fuel filter, and that's going to be going into the fuel pump. Just remember, most fuel filters have a flow arrow of how it actually gets flowed. So if we try to zoom in here, which you really can't, there's a little arrow in there and it shows that's the way the fuel should flow. So this is coming from the tank to the fuel filter to the fuel pump, out the fuel pump into the carburetor. And then the vacuum, which is what controls the flow, goes from here to the manifold.
Alright, in this portion we're going to show you how to install the clocking flange if you plan on using the PWK style carburetors, such as the OKO 28, 30mm, or the Mikuni style carburetor as well. You're going to need a bigger manifold, and we'll show you a little bit further on why you can't use your stock manifold. If you intend on using the clocking flange that we showed you earlier, you're going to take it off the cylinder head here, and you're going to put a riser on and then put the clocking flange on, which could potentially cause for more vacuum leaks. So that's why I like pushing the all-in-one clocking flange here. With using that, there's less chances of gaskets or anything. And this here is your 31mm riser that we make that allows you to use the clocking flange that comes with our fatty mount kits. And now we're going to show you how to use the 31mm riser. So you can see here, you may still have to trim out the plastics a little bit to make it sit perfect. What you're going to need to do is, because this doesn't have a ring for an O-ring, you're going to use a gasket, or you can use black RTV, and you're going to place that on the bottom here. And then you're going to line it up with the holes here on the head for you to put the bolts through. Now you're going to take the longer bolts that come with the kit, and you're going to put them through the angled clocking flange that comes with your fatty mount from us. So you're going to line it up so that the holes fit over, and then you're going to take the two longer bolts provided, and you're going to put them through the angled clocking flange into the riser manifold. And now we're going to put the bolts through and tighten them into the cylinder head. And with this riser, you might still have to trim out the plastic like I stated earlier. So it's going to give us a little problem right here with threading the bolt through. So I'm not going to really push it too hard because I don't want to try stripping the cylinder head. So I'll just leave this like so. And now you can see that with having the riser and the angled clocking flange, it can give you another potential vacuum leak because there's another spot now where a gasket's going to be sitting. And this is why we like using the all-in-one clocking flange, because it's going to eliminate that gap right there between the two pieces. You can see here it's just one whole unit on its own. And now we're going to open this up and show you what comes in the kit. So with this, you're going to get the clocking flange, O-ring. You can get the two longer bolts that hold the clocking flange into the cylinder head. And it's going to go right in these two slots right here that are tapped down. And then you're going to get 4 sets of bolts, both 2 sizes. So depending on what manifold you have, we know there's a lot out there. We kind of give you a couple sets of bolts to see which one works best for you. The smaller ones or the longer ones, we tend to see that the longer ones work better with the clocking flanges and the manifolds that we sell. And you can see here, I'll show you the clocking flange. You can see now it's just one whole solid unit as opposed to having a two-piece setup there. And we have it trimmed out for the O-ring at the bottom, which you'll take it and insert it through. And now I'll show you the aftermarket manifold that we like to use for the PWK 28 and 30 millimeters. You can see here it's got a bigger rubber coupler. The stock 24 mil manifold will not hold up, and we'll show you why in a minute. Now we're going to be installing the all-in-one clocking flange. So you can take your clocking flange and place the O-ring inside of it. Now you can always use a black RTV just in case you want to avoid any more vacuum leaks. So you can see now you're going to take the bolts and you're going to thread it through into the head. With this all-in-one, it's based off the same size as the angled clocking flange, so it's going to fit right into the existing cuts that you made in the plastics. So now you have your clocking flange on. Make sure you use red Loctite. We're going to show you why the PWK carburetor doesn't fit into the factory GY6 24mm manifold. You can see here they're about the same size, so it's not going to fit in. That's why we like using these aftermarket intake manifolds. You can see it'll slide right in. So now we're going to take the manifold and put it on the all-in-one clocking flange. Alright, so you're going to make sure that the O-ring for the manifold is in place, and like before we said, you can use like a black RTV and put it around it just in case you want to avoid any major vacuum leaks. And you're going to place this on the clocking flange, and I'm going to use those two longer bolts that came with the clocking flange. Once you have those tightened and Loctited in, you're going to see there's two hose clamps on top of the manifold here. You're going to loosen these up so that you can slide the carburetor in, and it's going to fit perfect. Once you get the carburetor in, you can go ahead and take your screwdriver and tighten up both the clamps. Make sure that it's not going to move around while you're riding, and again, another reason to prevent vacuum leaks. So you see around here, any point where there's two parts touching, that's where you can have potential vacuum leaks. And you can have the bike running, spray it with CARB cleaner or starting fluid, and if the RPMs go up, then you know you have a vacuum leak there. And you're going to have to go back and either fix the gasket or put some more RTV in between the two spots. And that's why it's better off to use the all-in-one clocking flange as opposed to using the riser along with the angled clocking flange. And you can see here that the float bowl is now sitting straight with this setup. We can also show you in the other videos that how to install the throttle cable for these PWK carburetors, where the gas goes over on the side here. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to keep an eye on more how-to videos on our YouTube channel. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and have a good day.